Brandon Miller came out of high school as the 7th ranked small forward and the 17th ranked player nationally per Rivals.com. Miller reportedly was considering going to the G League Ignite for one season, but took a visit to Alabama and fell in love. He committed to Alabama in November of 2021. It's early in the season, but Miller has shown enough that he is currently being mocked as a top 10 pick. There have even been some conversations about him going as high as number 3. Miller is intriguing with his size at 6'9" and his ability to shoot from just about anywhere on the court. Should he continue to perform as he has early in the season and avoid injury, those talks about Miller going 3rd in the draft might start to become more frequent. The biggest strength for Miller, in my opinion, is his ability as a shooter. Through 8 games this season, Miller is shooting a scorching 47% from 3 on a whopping 7.3 attempts per game. But beyond just the numbers, he's been impressive in the type of shots he's been able to make. He's shown the ability to make shots from well beyond the NBA three-point arc. He's also shown that he's able to make shots both when he's open as well as when he's covered. At 6'9", Miller can shoot over a lot of perimeter players fairly easily. He also has a pretty quick release. All in all, Miller's shot is just tough to defend, and if he can continue to make it at a good clip in the NBA, he's going to be a nightmare for defenses. Another strength for Miller is his ability to handle the basketball. There are some sweet shooting forwards that are sort of one-trick ponies on the offensive end. They can run around screens and make shots from anywhere on the floor, but if asked to put the ball on the floor, they aren't able to do much. Miller might not be consistently breaking down guys off the dribble, but he's very fluid with the ball in his hands and is capable of attacking closeouts or setting up his own shot in the half court. I don't think Miller has the ability right now to consistently create his own shot against high-level defenders, but he has a good base as a ball handler to work with and could improve at shot creation down the road. One final strength for Miller is his defense. Miller has the physical tools to be a very switchable defender. He's 6'9", very mobile, and appears to have good length. His mobility allows him to defend effectively on the perimeter, while his size and length allows him to defend larger players in the paint as well. He doesn't have great athleticism, so he isn't going to be a great rim protector, but with his strength and mobility, he can keep most guys away from the basket pretty effectively. Miller might not be a guy that will ever make an all-defensive team or anything, but he can fill the role of a 3-and-D wing well, and that's an incredibly valuable thing for any NBA team. One weakness for Miller is that he is not a super athlete. While Miller is very fluid moving around the court, he isn't an explosive athlete or a high leaper by NBA standards. Miller is a fantastic shooter and can handle the ball pretty well, especially at his size. But his lack of explosiveness does make it difficult for him to get all the way to the basket and finish consistently. Up to this point in his career, he can get away with that a bit by being bigger and more skilled than the majority of his competition. But at the NBA level, I could see him struggling to score consistently around the basket. He might be forced to become more of a perimeter player. Overall, many players that aren't the best athletes by NBA standards become great NBA players with their skill and basketball IQ. It's entirely possible that Miller could follow a path like this, but there definitely could be an adjustment period when he first breaks into the NBA. Another weakness for Miller is playmaking. Now, while being able to create for others probably won't be Miller's job very often at the NBA level, it would raise his ceiling a lot if he had this as part of his game. But as of now, it doesn't seem like Miller is very good at creating opportunities for others. Miller doesn't have great anticipation, and this leads to bad passes and turnovers. He also has a tendency to try to force up tough shots rather than find an open teammate for a better shot or just keep the offense moving. I don't think it's so much that Miller is selfish with the ball or anything like that. I think he's probably just always been a shooter and a scorer that hasn't been asked to play make much. But unless he's able to develop this part of his game a bit, it puts a cap on how high his ceiling can be. This first clip displays Miller's ability to handle the basketball. The play starts with Miller receiving the pass at the top of the arc, then faking the pitch back to his teammate. He then takes one hard dribble to the left to get his defender moving that way, then quickly crosses over to get into the lane going right. Miller ends up drawing a foul at the basket. Miller might not be the primary ball handler very often, but he definitely has some ability to create for himself when needed. This next clip shows off some of Miller's skill on the defensive end of the floor. The play starts with Miller defending a drive from the top of the arc. Miller stays with the ball handler down the lane and goes up vertically near the basket. The opponent pivots and sees Miller's teammate has rotated over. Miller immediately switches over to the other opponent in the lane and forces a tough shot. Miller might not be a super athlete by NBA standards, but he's very mobile and has good physical tools that should allow him to be a switchable defender. This final clip gives us a look at Miller's relative lack of athleticism. The play starts with Miller handling out on the wing. His teammate kind of bluffs the screen and rolls into the lane. Miller drives to his right, but doesn't have enough burst to really get past his defender. He then gets to the basket and has his shot either partially blocked or heavily contested because he is unable to elevate very much. NBA level athletes are going to be far more explosive generally than big guys that Liberty is trotting out there. He'll have to continue to be crafty if he wants to score consistently around the basket. Brandon Miller looks like he has a solid floor as a big 3-and-D wing with the potential to be more than that. He has a sweet shooting stroke and can knock down threes out into Steph Curry range. He also looks to be a strong and potentially very switchable defender. What could make Miller a higher level player is his ability to handle the basketball. A lot of 3-and-D players can't really handle the ball much, so they just kind of hang out on the perimeter. It appears that Miller has some ability to create shots for himself off the dribble. I think ultimately he isn't good enough at handling the ball to overcome his relative lack of athleticism, but I think he could be a guy that offers a secondary or tertiary scoring option for a good team. I don't know if Miller will ever be a superstar, but I could see him being a very solid starter in the NBA for a long time. My NBA comp for Brandon Miller is Cameron Johnson. Johnson has struggled with injuries during his NBA career, but when healthy, he has given the Suns a big 3-and-D forward that can also put the ball on the floor occasionally when needed. Miller might have a little more upside than Johnson overall, but his floor should be a similar type of career.
Hey guys, producer Peter speaking. I just wanted to pop in here and add on to Jacob's thoughts regarding Brandon Miller. So for me, I've seen the Paul George comps, but I can't quite see that true star upside with Brandon Miller. He doesn't have the explosive strength and coordination that a prime Paul George had. Nor does he have the deep scoring bag of a guy like Brandon Ingram. Ultimately, I see him being a high-level role player in the NBA, someone who can be the third or fourth best player on a true contender. And for that reason, my NBA player comp for Alabama's Brandon Miller is a 6'9" Mikal Bridges. Like Bridges, Miller's length can let him be versatile and disruptive on the defensive end, and his shot will have him regularly hovering around the 40% mark from downtown. He also has enough of a handle to put the ball on the floor against closeouts or in the pick and roll to create good looks for himself as well as his teammates.